welcome back to this wonderful session on email writing. Today, we're going to learn about what email writing exactly is. We've all heard this term before, and we're all aware of its full form as well. Email stands for electronic mails. When we're talking about emails, we are talking about a means of sending a message, which is either a text message or a file message, between computers using the internet. While we are talking about all these things, we know that in today's world, emails are the most common form of communication. Email writing helps us to get solutions very quickly, almost it's instant. Email writing involves composing, sending, storing, and receiving messages over the electronic communication system. While we are talking about all these things, we are talking about this preferred medium of communication simply because it is cheap, fast, and there with lesser number of glitches. There are varied numbers and categories of emails available, like the semi-formal email, the formal email, and the informal email. When we're talking about the informal email, we're talking about emails that we send to friends, relatives, family members, etc. The semi-formal ones, wherein we're talking to our teammates, classmates, even colleagues at office, and the formal ones, which include all professional communication. So here, let's get started. Why, as per you, are emails so popular? Because when we're talking about emails, they are all information mails. Here, when we're talking about their popularity, the first thing that comes to our mind is it's the cheapest form of communication. Information can be sent to a wide variety of people across the globe within seconds. So the time consumption here has reduced. It helps in maintaining contact with a large number of people. I don't have to send individual emails. I can add the same amount of people in the body and I can shoot it to them in one go. It provides you with written record of communication. As we are aware that in the corporate sector, record keeping is one of the major aspects, wherein every communication that's taking place between the suppliers, employees, etc., a record of the same has to be maintained. It is an instantaneous form of communication wherein within seconds you send across a mail and you might even receive a reply within seconds. It can be utilized anytime and anywhere. Right now, we have devices in our pockets, the cell phones and tablets, etc., which we are using to communicate effectively and efficiently. This is there in our pocket devices. This is there in our hands. We don't have to wait to sit in front of this big screen and do this task. When we're talking about, the particularities of this, there are a few points that have to be considered. We need to pay attention to the following points to understand as to how to get easy access to writing an email. Number one, internet is the first and foremost thing here. Why? Because without the internet, this communication, either receiving or sending, is not possible. The email attachments are there so they can spread viruses quickly. Viruses, on one hand, we are talking about how this is the most advantageous system. On the other hand, we're also talking how these viruses can easily spread via email attachments, and most of the email providers can email for viruses on your behalf. So when you receive an attachment, you always see this kind of a notification appearing, scanning for viruses, which is very essential. Junk emails may keep sitting in your inbox because we are not checking them on daily basis. Yes, here I'm talking about the spams basically. There is no way to ensure whether the receiver has read the email or not. When we're talking about messages over WhatsApp, etc., we are aware through those blue ticks that the person has read our message. But for the emails, we do not have any such provision. The details in the email can be used to identify theft. When I'm talking about theft, I'm talking about phishing basically, which is sending an email to a user which falsely claims to be a legitimate company to scam the user into providing basic information such as personal information about your bank details, your full name, Aadhaar card number, PAN card number, etc. And herein they create a bogus website which automatically extracts your details. The details can be later used in this email that you have received. These details can be used to identify theft. When we're talking about the common features of an email, let's see what these features are. One is the automatic reply to messages. When I'm talking about the automatic reply to messages, that means you can simply select this option that appears, reply all. And we often receive these kind of messages when we have these groups sending us the official information, wherein thanks for contacting ABC Limited and we'd get back to you ASAP. Address can be stored in your address book. You have an option to save the address, and then you need not type the email ID again and again. You just type the initials and you receive the ID there. Messages can be filled automatically. When I'm talking about messages here, I'm talking about your message that you have to frame. There are common things like for ending, people usually use thanks and regards. You write TH and it gives you the complete option. Auto retrieval of messages, wherein you want to find something that, and you know what the keywords are or the person's name who has sent you can simply type it through those words in the search box. Easy for you to search. Easy notifications of whether messages were sent or not. So here when we are talking about this process, one thing that has to be looked into really carefully is that those notifications, if the message is not sent, the mail is received in our mail body which says that the following address was incorrect. That's the reason the mail couldn't go there. Or if you by chance are working on an email and then suddenly you have some other task which becomes all the more important, you shut your system there, it gets saved as your draft. It is never ever deleted from your system. Same message can be sent to many people as copies. Create multiple copies and send it as individual emails to multiple people. You can also add multiple people to one email. There can be signatures that can be attached to a particular email. And when I'm talking about signature, it acts as an authentic copy. Automatic use of date and time, because it's directly linked to your system's date and time. So whatever date and time your system has, it automatically picks that. Files, graphics, and audios can be attached in the email. So when I'm talking about all these things, I am talking about the facilities that we are getting through this feature. Emails can easily be accessible on mobile phones as well, even on our tablets, and obviously on the desktop or the laptop. Auto forward of email is an important feature of email writing. Here, the auto forward is wherein you want the email to be forwarded to some other website or some other ID. That is where you click on this option and it automatically gets transferred to that ID which you have pre-stored in it. Here, when we're talking about email writing, we have to make sure that we're not missing any of these pointers mentioned below. One, try not to over communicate, stick to the point. When I'm talking about over communication, we know that today when we are sending off multiple mails, it's actually become a challenge not to default to everyday phrases that we all use all the time in our communication. Like, I hope you're doing well kind of things, or have a great day. So here, there are a few people who always argue that, there's this proper setting. You need to identify whether it's a formal mail, it's a semi-formal mail, or an informal mail. And thereafter start framing your body. Make good use of the subject line. The subject line should not be bulky. It should be short and crisp and conveying the right amount of message. Keep your message clear and brief. Again, an extension to this. People are not here to check your vocabulary or your writing style. There is where you have to be very watchful as to what you're typing and what you're writing. Keep your language respectful. Again, we spoke about humor in the previous session, wherein we said that for a few people, humor is just like adding a new flavor, a new dimension to your email. But it's more possible when you're writing it in an informal setting. But when it comes to a formal setting, people might find it not correct for the situation. Check your tone while writing emails. This is very important because you need to know that you're writing a formal email or an informal or a semi-formal email, and you need to write in accordance to the same. Do not forget to proofread. That's the most important pointer here, because when we're talking about proofreading as a whole, we're talking about multiple things. 1, no grammatical errors. 2, no punctuation errors. 3, no spelling errors, etc. Proofreading will make sure that whatever content you have is being delivered in the right frame of mind. Now, let's elaborate these points in details. When we're talking about over communication, at times we tend to write long, bulky emails, which should be avoided to the maximum extent. So here, keep your greetings short, and you have to include only the relevant pointers that are required to be discussed. Avoid questions which need back and forth communication, wherein I'm asking a question and someone will have to reply back to it until and unless it's very necessary. Like if you're writing it to a supplier, confirming this, and you're asking for a date on which the supplier would be delivering you the products, the reply is mandatory. If you're writing a thank you letter, on the other hand, you don't expect a reply there. So don't write questions wherein this person will have to reply to your message. Do not forget to delete the conversation history if that's not needed. At times, what happens is when we keep replying onto the same mail, it becomes a bulky attachment. You can simply go for deleting the previous communication and sending the fresh mail to the person. Do not include a personal touch in your professional email. Again, segregating your emails as per your formal, informal, semi-formal. Try to deliver bad news in person and not over email. That's very important, because here a face-to-face or an interactive communicative feel is very much essential. How is it that you can make good use of your subject line? So while we're talking about the subject line, we have to take care of a few things. 1, I have to make it eye-catchy. I do not want the person to just read the subject line and delete my mail. The subject line should be so catchy that the person should be tempted to open and check what is there inside the mail. The gist of your email should be evident in your subject line. It shouldn't be that you're talking about something else in the subject line while you're talking about something else in the main body. No relevance there. Do not leave it blank. It lessens the chances of the email being read. If you're leaving it blank, people often tend to believe that this is nothing important. It can also get marked as spam automatically. How many of us do check our spams? Hardly any, until unless we're looking for something really important which we are actually missing in the email. You may include date in the subject line if it is one of your regular series of email. But this is not a compulsion, people here. You may also include call to action such as, please reply by November 7. So here when we are talking about a particular phase where it is important to highlight such things, that is where such call to actions can be included in the subject line. Now comes the most important question. How is it that we can make the email brief? We have to follow the tips that are mentioned below, and this will make your email precise. So you need to keep the message clear and concise. When I'm talking about keeping it clear and concise, that is where I'm talking about how is it that I am going to shorten this message without deleting any important information. My information should be there, but I should be not mentioning them as bulky paragraphs. I can break them down into simpler, short bullet pointers. Keep your sentence short and to the point. The sentences should be short, but doesn't mean that you're taking the crux or the feel of the sentence away. The body of the email should be direct and informative. It should contain all the pertinent, that is important information. Usually it is seen when people are asked to write or break it down into smaller sentences or smaller paragraphs, or even bullet pointers, they forget that it has to be in a proper sequence. Chronology is important here. Otherwise, it'll become ambiguous as to what you're talking about. Once the reader loses interest in what you're writing, that is all your writing was in vain. Write different emails for different topics. Do not try mixing and merging stuff here. Keep your message absolutely clear. Do not mix and merge multiple topics in one mail. You may write separate mails for separate topics. Let's see this example here. The subject line, revisions for sales reports. Okay, the highlight here that I get is that we're talking about sales reports here. Hi, Jackie. Thanks for sending that report last week. I read it yesterday, and I feel that chapter 2 needs more specific information about our sales figure. I also felt that the tone could be more formal. So here, if you see, it says the report was sent last week. The person who's reading it, that's the reader, read it last week only. Then the reader starts talking about the details. Here, when was the message sent? When did the reader read it? Is unnecessary information. Even if we exclude this information, my email is going to make complete sense. I also felt that the tone could be more formal. Here, there's a suggestion that is being given, but it's not a personalized feel. If you want that suggestion, you have to be firm about it. Also, I wanted to let you know that I've scheduled a meeting with the PR department for this Friday regarding the new ad campaign. Now, if you see paragraph 2, we are jumping from one point to another. That is simply not required. It's at 11 a.m. and will be in a small conference room. Please let me know if you can make that time. If you see, the highlight has now changed from the report that was shared, the feedback that was being shared for the report versus this new thing. So here it is absolutely a big zero. The reason is that we're not supposed to include multiple pointers. Let's keep it in a formal tone or semi-formal tone because it's between colleagues. That's the reason we are talking about giving examples to make you understand better. With this, let's bring this session to a pause here. We'd meet back really soon. Thank you so much.